let's get started. And I think, and again, like I said, because of the nature of the concept of love, is a very, very, very complex word. Uh, it will fall under being a noun, a person, place, or thing, or an idea, or very abstract ideas such as love, happiness, and things of that sort. So again, but however, you do have what they call romantic love. You have romantic love, whereas you're talking about an individual, two individuals, be it male or male and female, and then we have some type of family type of bond, type of relationship love, and then we have friendship love, and we have all these sorts of different type of love. But those loves would fall under the personal. They would fall under a personal type of perspective love, because we are talking about being in love with a person. And so when we're talking about I love you, I love my wife, I love my kids, I love my boyfriend, I love my girlfriend, we are talking about a dualistic perspective of love. And what I'm talking about today here is I'm talking about a holistic, a non-separation, a being perspective of love. So again, which is more of an impersonal perspective of love. Those loves that I mentioned before, again, uh, the relationship love that you have with your family, your friends, and your romantic relationships. Those are all those are all dualist perspectives. Whereas you love the person, they love you. You are separate from the person is separate from you. But that is not the type of love that I will be talking about today mainly. However, I will talk about many different other aspects of that separation love, if I may say. But mainly I'm trying to talk about, again, from a non-dualist perspective and an Advaita Vedanta perspective, what is love. So, and again, so would from an Advaita Vedanta perspective, they would say that the meaning of love, is to see no otherness in the world. And that is the definition of love from a non-dualist perspective, to see no otherness in the world. And that may sound somewhat simple, but that is a very, very, very deep and complex uh, concept as well, because what that simply means is that we are not loving a person, we are loving the being of that person. And that is very much different from what we are used to talking about. I love you, you love me. Again, family type of love, a romantic type of love, or friendship type of love, or just a platonic type of love. Whatever the love may be between two individuals, that is not the same thing as no otherness in the world. When I said no otherness in the world, this concept was, again, uh, did not originate in the Bible. Again, the Hindus' perspectives, the Upanishads, and so forth and so forth, the Vedas, again, 1500, 2000 years ago, way before the Bible even came about, spoke about this oneness and God is love. But they didn't actually use the word God per se, because that is a more of a Western term. But you would hear more so of the terms used as consciousness, awareness. Those are the terms usually used. Awareness is love. Awareness is love. Consciousness is love. And more from a religious perspective, God is love. So again, I know this might be a lot that I'm kind of just throwing out there. But again, as time going, I'm going to break this video down more and more. But again, it's such a very deep, deep, deep subject matter. I cannot just give you, because again, like I said, romantic love is more of a separation type of love. I'm not talking about a separation. I'm talking about loving the being, not the person. When you are in a relationship, again, be it friendship, boyfriend relationship, romantic, family love, you are in love with a person. You are that is a personal type of love, and there is a separation between you and the individual. This love that I'm referring to, there is no separation, and we are not in love with the person per se. We are in love with the shared being of that person, because from an Advaita Vedanta perspective, again, there is no separation in non-duality. And that's where the whole concept no otherness comes from. So in the non-duality perspective, there is no you, there's no me. On a deeper level, there is only the oneness, the I-ness, the isness of pure awareness and pure consciousness. So again, a very complex concept to be understood by many in the West. This is a concept that is very strongly known in the Eastern world, but again, in the West, a very difficult concept to conceive of. So again, with that being said, so today what I'm talking about is I'm not talking about being in love with a person. I am talking about being love itself, because consciousness is love, awareness is love, and God is love from a religious perspective. And most individuals may ask, how could consciousness be love? How could God be love? But again, like I said before, consciousness, there is no separation in consciousness. There's only consciousness is the fundamental principle that is the only thing that exists, and everything that we see or objects appearing in consciousness, such as myself, the world, the cars, the objects. Again, so I being the subject, the true self, the true I amness of who I am, not so much as the physical body of who I am. That is what I'm talking about, the I amness. That's why the Bible spoke about I am. I am. When God was asked in the mountains, I think it was Moses, if I remember clearly, he said, to tell who do I tell the people to say you are, which name do I give them? And he said, I am that I am. And and again, that is a concept that came way after this Veda Vedanta concepts, the philosophies and the way of life, if I may say, the understanding of true love was portrayed. So again, that I amness that Jesus spoke about, also Jesus, Yeshua, whichever name suits you or you're most comfortable with, when he said, I am the Father or one, he was also referring to that I amness, that I am that is within each and every one of us. When we speak and we said, I am sick, I am this, I am that, we are talking about the isness, the I amness, the beingness of the individual. We're not talking about the objects. We're not talking about I am happy, I am this, I am sad, I am aging. Those things are objects, and there is the subject is the being, the I am isness, because that is the only thing that does not change. Our age changes, our weight changes, our mood changes, uh, everything changes in the physical world, and that's why they are considered objects. But what I'm talking about here today is the subject. The subject is the I amness, the awareness that is aware of being sick, the awareness that is aware of growing older, the awareness or the consciousness that is aware of all things. The awareness that is aware that it is aware is what I'm talking about today. And so, from that perspective, from the awareness perspective, there is no otherness in the world. There is only oneness. There is no you. There is no me. There is no. And this is a this is again this concept. My videos are very usually in many cases very long, because I try to go in a great detail about some of these matters that are not so easily uh, understood, so easily. However, like I said before, uh, this is a very complex matter as well. So it's not just as simple as saying, what is love and so forth. But that is why, again, I'm saying it from a Vedanta concept perspective, that I am talking about the shared being that I am, that you are, and that is what that is what I'm talking about. That is not, there is no otherness. So again, when most individuals talk, but I love you, you love me, they are talking about the person. I love the person. And the person would fall under categories. I love your appearance. I love your complexion. I love your body. I love these things are all objects, and these things are also all fleeting, which is why it is very important that we grasp this concept of this oneness, because if we fall in love with these objects, these ever-changing things, we will always be disappointed to some degree, more disappointed than not, because as we age, the individual physical structure will change, we will get disappointed. As the individual mood change, we are going to get disappointed. As the individual finances change, we're going to get disappointed. There's no permanency in this illusory place called the matrix, also known as Maya. So when we put our love into something that is objective and something that is changeable, it is 99.9.9, sorry, 99.99999 guaranteed that there will be some sort of disappointment. No if, ands, and but. That is why most individuals who are in uh, dualistic relationships, most individuals are actually unhappy, but they just go through it because they believe that this is how life's supposed to be, and no one, and so they just go on and on. But I guarantee most individuals in relationships, whether they be married or not, are unhappy because they are loving from a dualistic perspective, and they are expecting to find happiness outside of themselves, and which is near impossible, because the first place love can be, only place could be found, is within oneself. And if you don't love yourself, how could you love another? If you don't love yourself or display love, you cannot get what you do not deserve. You cannot get what you are not. That's why they said that we don't attract what we want, we attract who we are. So with that being said, if you are a person that has malice or hatred or whatever the case may be inside of you, you will most likely always attract those things, because the world gives us a reflection back of who we are inside. Everything that we see comes from within. And so if our life is kind of somewhat chaotic and there's a lot of disturbances and emotional turbulence and different things of that sort, it's not so much as those things are happening outside of us. Those things are also a reflection of what is going on inside of us. And the way this is set up is the universe, or whatever you want to call it, the dream world, the dream state, Maya, the matrix. The way it is set up, it's like a mirror. It does not make up anything. It just gives you back and a reflection of what is internal. Just like a TV screen does not have a preference to what type of movie it watches. It does not have a preference if it watches a horror movie, a happy movie, a sad movie. It just watches, it just reflects the movie back, and all the same, and the same thing applies to the world as well. So consciousness also is also impersonal, so it does not have a personal feeling towards. And that is one. Sorry, that is another aspect. Because again, this topic is so big, so wide, and so far and so long. I can't. It's going to be pretty much impossible for me to elaborate on every single subject matter in reference to love. But however, I will do my very best to elaborate as much as I can as thoughts come to me, because again, this is pretty much, once again, a freestyle video, just talking on the top of the dome. So again, like I was saying, again, if you do not have self-love, it is going to be impossible for you to love anyone else. And if you do not have self-love, it's going to be impossible for anyone to love you as well. Because if you have secret, deep hatreds in your heart, or feelings negative about yourself, what I think it was Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, they call it the shadow self. If you have all these hidden deep animals and different things inside yourself, and those things may be hidden, you might hide them from the world, but the world will reflect them. You will attract the people that will come in your life that will reflect pain and suffering, because that is the energy or the frequency that you vibrate on, and then therefore those things will appear in your life as well. So again, it's not so much as you do not attract what you want, you attract who you are. So if you are unloving, you will most likely attract unloving people, and then you would always wonder why. Hey, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening? Is because that is the energy, the frequency that you're giving out, and the universe or God or whatever the case may be, the illusion, matrix, Maya, is just giving you back an exact match of what you are. So until the inside, the internal self changes, there will also always be some type of discomfort and disentanglement in reference to having a holistic and healing relationship with another person as well. So again, with that being said, like I said, today we are talking about an impersonal love. So, and which will bring me to another video. People will say, how could you know, love this one and love that one, and how could it not be true? Again, because if you do not love yourself, you cannot love anybody else. It first must start with yourself. However, the unfortunate part is, again, from an Advaita Vedanta perspective, uh, we are talking about this I self, this isness of the self. Most individuals do not know who they are, and which also would take some type of reflection, some type of internal uh, inquiry, self inquiry, to find out who the true self really is. And then after the true self is found, only then we can look into other loving other individuals. And that's the only way that this concept that I'm talking about, the see no otherness in the world, could be understood. Because once there is otherness in the world, there will always be some type of issue going on with the self and the false self. So with that being said, I think the water's coming up kind of close. I think I need to move closer to shore here. I'll move in a different spot, different angle. But anyhow, like I was saying, so it is very difficult. It is very difficult to love somebody if you do not have any self-love for yourself. In fact, I would say it is impossible for you to even love yourself without knowing yourself. That is why I think it was I can't remember the guy, Rene Descartes, I think it was Rene Descartes, who said, uh, to know thyself, I think, therefore I am, correct. I think that's what it is. I think, therefore I am. And again, that is also a concept of knowing thyself. But again, that is where meditation and things of that sort has to come into place, self-inquiry. And most people, again, think meditation is something that we do for bliss and happiness and stilling the mind and so forth. Yes, those are also benefits of meditation. Those are side effects of meditation. However, the true goal of meditation is internal self-reflection, to understand and to know thyself, the true I am, the true isness of thyself, the true being. So again, when we come to this realization that there is no separation in the world and there is only the being, the one being, the consciousness, the awareness, then only then we can love ourselves, and then we can see the world from a non-dualist perspective, and we do not see otherness in the world. And that is why most individuals are unhappy in relationships, because they see otherness in the world. And when we see the world from an otherness perspective, there will always be some type of disappointment. That is pretty much the way it is, and that is how it was designed. And so until this awareness comes, this understanding comes to light, that there is no separation between the self, the true self, the I-ness, the beingness between you and I, there will always be conflict, which is also one of the root causes of the war and the suffering in the world today, because there's always someone believing that I am different than you, you are different than me. Because if we did have this oneness in our heart, there will never be, I would never rob from you, I would never steal from you, I would never do anything harmful to you, because I see myself as you. Which is why the Bible also used the greatest commandment, to love the neighbor as thyself, and love is the greatest commandment. Because, like I said again, God is love, love is God, consciousness is love, consciousness is God, awareness is love, awareness is God from a religious perspective. So again, love thy neighbor and as to love thyself is basically what I'm talking about. But you cannot love your neighbor as yourself if you do not know who you are. So again, that is one of the reasons why Bob Marley's video, One Love, if you look at that song is on the international level. You could go pretty much anywhere in the world and someone knows that song. You could go in the bush somewhere and sing One Love and they know. Japan, wherever you talk about, they know One Love. Because the reason that song holds so much credence is because individuals usually, when they hear that song brings a sense of oneness to each individual, and that is why most individuals feel related to that song as well. So most individuals, every individual longs to be one again, longs to feel whole, longs to feel connected to each other. But however, because not knowing ourselves, it is near impossible. So, which brings me to another point. That is why, even from a relationship perspective, when we see people, when we see individuals down, who may seem to be physically attractive, we may see some people on the streets or wherever we may see them out and about. They may appear to be attractive physically or something like that, and we tend to be drawn more to these people. However, the reason is not so much is because they are physically fit. Yes, that is part of it. That is part of it. Yes, they may be pretty or handsome or whatever the case may be. That is one aspect of why we are attracted to these individuals. But on a subconscious level, we tend to see people who are fit, be it guys or girls who go to the gym and they put a lot of work and a lot of dedication. We see that and we tend to be attracted to these individuals because on a subconscious level, we are not aware that that person is showing self-love. And when we see people that show self-love, whether we are aware of it or not, we tend to be attracted to that person. So it's not so much as the physical body. Yes, we are attracted to the body from an eye candy perspective. However, on a much deeper level, when we see that fit person who takes time to go to the gym with dedication and all those things, we tend to say, wow, this person really loves themselves. I wish I could love myself to that degree. This person looks whole. This person looks almost complete. And that is what we are truly attracted to. That is why, like I said again, if you did love your neighbors, and that's why the Bible said, do unto others what others do unto you. If you do see us, if you did see your neighbors as a part of you or as being you, you would not do the things that you do to them. But again, that is one of the reasons why there's war, like Bob Marley say, until the color of a man's skin and all of these other things, these dualistic perspective things change from our perspective. There will always be war. That is why when we see somebody and we hate on them for whatever reason, one reason or another, you know what I'm saying? We hate because we feel some type of separation. That is where racism comes from. All of these things is a feeling of separation when somebody does not look like us, sound like us, whatever the case may be. That is a feeling of separation, and we do not like separation by nature, but we might not be aware of why we dislike this race or this people or this the way someone looks. Is because we feel like this person does not really relate to us because they are separate from us. Again, that is because we are looking at the individuals from a dualistic perspective. But until we learn who we are, and again, that's going to be a next video that I'm going to create. Who am I? That is going to be one video that I'm going to talk about again to go into greater depths. But today we're specifically talking about love. So again, like I said, so until we see individual who as ourself, as the being, as the shared being, as from a non-dualist perspective, we cannot really truly experience love. Because when you understand to love somebody from an impersonal perspective, again, not loving the person but loving the being, you have no other choice than to love everyone. You see? So that is a lot different when you love from a dualist perspective. Individuals will say, oh, I don't love you, I don't love you, and I because we see people from a separate perspective. But when we understand there is no when we see the world from a no otherness in the world, we have no other choice than to love everyone. The criminal, the killer, whoever the case may be, you have to love them as well, because you're not looking at the person, you're not loving the person. Again, we are loving the shared being of that person, because you and that criminal and I have we share the same spirit, we share the same air, we share the same divinity. It's just appearance of the appearance to be separate, and that's what we understand that we love. But again, do not misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I like what the criminals or the killers do. I'm not saying that I like when somebody does robbery or whatever the case may be. I am saying that I have to love that person no matter what, because I do not see that individual from a separate self perspective. And this concept is very different from the West. Again, this is a pure non-dualistic perspective from an Advaita Vedanta perspective. Again, that is why I am creating this video, because I could not go into the depths to give this person a clear understanding without going into much elaboration and so forth and so forth. So again, like for example, the individual was asking me more than one question, a bunch of philosophical questions that was kind of challenging for me to just go right out and answer without having the proper foundation that this person needs to understand how I see the world from a non-dualist perspective, how I see the world and how I see individuals, and only then would be able to answer this individual. But I tried my best to answer, without having the proper foundation established. But I did my very best. And again, without the foundation, it was very impossible for me to go into great details like I'm doing right now. So again, so that is why I'm creating this video, to go into much, much more detail, to get individuals to understand the difference of what they would call an impersonal love versus a personal love. So again, personal love is when we see the person, we love the person, and we love objects. We love the characteristics of the person. We love the physical things of the person, but we are not so much as seeing ourselves as being one with that person. And when we come to that understanding, Only then we can love somebody unconditionally. That is why the Bible says God loves unconditionally. So consciousness, awareness also loves unconditionally. And because consciousness, by the definition, like I said, is no separation, no otherness. So therefore, and the definition of love is to see the world without otherness. And the definition of consciousness and awareness is oneness. So consciousness is love, awareness is love. So also, like I was saying, most individuals do not understand that they are sharing the same being. So we tend to treat each individual with hostility and other things of that nature as well. Which brings me to another point. That is why they say blood is thicker than water. Because again, the reason we love some people more than others is because we are more personally connected to those individuals rather than others. So, for example, you might be connected to your friend. I'm just making these numbers up. So, you could have one individual who is a friend, and again, I'm just making these numbers up. I'm not, these numbers are not, I'm just giving you an idea of why we feel the way we feel. You might love a friend 10%, and then you might love uh, your girlfriend or your boyfriend 20%, and then you might love your wife, or your husband 40%. Then you might love your mother or your father. I'm just making these numbers up, 70%. And then you might love your kids 100%. I'm just saying that the reason that is because we feel a closeness. Once the more closer we feel to an individual, the more most likely we will love that individual, because what we are feeling is we're not being attracted or we're not loving that person. We love the feeling of the oneness when we are with that person, because when we become involved in a relationship, or when we become involved in some type of romantic love, or whatever the case may be, the separation tends to collapse. And that is what we are falling in love with. We are falling in love with the feeling of being one with somebody, which is our true nature. However, we tend to go and we do drugs and we do other things trying to come to that place of oneness. But again, those are all separate objects. And that is which is also why, like I said, you are not necessarily in love in the relationship. You are not in love with a person from a non-dualistic perspective, from a Advaita Vedantic perspective. That you are in love. You are in love with the being of that person, not with the person itself. That is why, again, from an Advaita Vedantic perspective, from a non-dualistic perspective, you have to love everyone, because it comes automatically if you do not see a separation between you and that individual as well. So, like I said earlier, we are not in love with the person, we are in love with the shared being of that person, because we share the same air, we share the same breath, we share the same everything. And that is what I am talking about here today. So I would guarantee you, if you get a grasp on what I'm saying, if you go into a relationship seeking love before this transformation has transpired within yourself, to love yourself first, to know yourself first, it is most likely that you will be disappointed, because you will actually put your love into something that does not have the ability to contain or sustain your true happiness. And again, so once you give your love to something externally outside of yourself, the possibilities are almost 110% that you will actually come to some sort of disappointing realization, because you have falsely loved something that cannot be loved. The only thing could be loved is the understanding of this consciousness, this awareness, this no otherness, because that itself is love by nature. So again, trying to find love outside of the self, outside of this oneness, this otherness, you going outside looking to this otherness, it is pretty much inevitable that there will be failure. And yes, some people pull it off for years and years and years, because they've learned to believe that that's the way it is, and that is what humans do. We fight it out, we stick it out, and so forth and so forth. So if you are trying to love somebody from that perspective, your greatest chance of having a more healthy relationship, a more holistic and healing and happy relationship, is to try and love that person from a being level, because that way, when the person physical objective traits change, such as looks, uh, different things, material things, money, and different resources. When these things change, when the situationship changes, you would still be in love with the being, because the being never changes. The body changes, the mind changes, the thoughts changes, the feelings changes, everything changes, but the being. So again, what is love? The love that I'm talking about today is to see no otherness, to see no separation in the world. And again, the only way this could be achieved is to be achieved through understanding one's true nature and one's true self inquiry, which also is another understanding that is very difficult for most individuals to understand, is that all feelings and emotions are actually different manifestations of this one love that I'm talking about. They are just manifestations, feelings of anger, hatred, what it is, just from the law of polarity. We're talking about just feelings and emotions being on one side of the scale. You have love on the positive side, and then you have hatred on the other side. But those are all interconnected to this one source of love. Again, all feelings and emotions are different manifestations of love. However, the cause of the negative sides coming into existence is because of separation. We get angry because we feel someone did something to me. Again, separation. And the magnitude of that separation, that hurt, that anger, is going to depend on what the person does or whatever the case may be. But you will see the pattern in all of these emotions. The negative emotions stem from a feeling of separation. And so when someone makes you angry, you say that this person made me angry because this person did this or that. When you feel sad because this person did this or that person did that to me. This person said this or said that to me. Against separation. When you feel happy, it is because you feel more oneness with that individual. There's a more feeling of unity with that individual. You feel more connected to that individual. So the more connected you feel, the more oneness you feel, the more by nature you will feel happy. Happy. So again, from a law of polarity perspective, all feelings, the more negative the feeling, the more separated you feel from that person. Anger, the more hate you feel. This person made me, I hate this person, because again, you feel separated from that person, which is why we have racism, prejudice, and all these other things, because we do not see each other as the same being. We see this person as being this color, this race, this creed, or things of that nature, like Bob Marley said, until we don't see the color of our eye and all that stuff, there's going to be war. And that is correct. And that is what I'm saying, is that is what I'm talking about today. So again, all feelings, when you have that hatred, is because you do not see the being, the shared being of yourself in that person. You see that person as a separate being. So you, therefore, you could kill that person, you could rob that person, you could harm that person, because you do not feel that that person is connected to you in any way, shape, or form. However, if you did feel a connection with that person, I could guarantee you that you would not rob your neighbors, you would not steal, you would not kill, you would not harm anyone. That is why, again, just as Jesus said, to love thy neighbor as to love thyself, the greatest commandment is love. And that is a fact. So, but the only way we could love our neighbors as ourselves is until we come to love ourselves. And the only way we could love ourselves, again, is that we see no separation from the self and another. So again, hatred, anger, any negative emotion you could feel, we could trace that all back to being separate. I am mad at you, you are mad at me. Again, separation. I am happy with you. Happy is also separated, but again, it goes on a spectrum, more on the love side than the negative side. Again, all emotions are all manifestations of this one love, this one consciousness, this one awareness that everything appears in. Awareness, everything appears in awareness. You are the awareness. You are the awareness of the things that is being aware. You are the consciousness that is conscious of the things that you are conscious of. Consciousness, when we do the self inquiry, self evaluation, we go back and we will trace things back to the original self, the I-ness, the armness, the beingness of the self, and we cannot go any further. So I will make another video about that at some other time. But I think for the most part, I think we are starting to understand when we talk about love from a dualistic perspective. I love you, you love me. That is somewhat, again, that is more of a personal love. I am talking about an impersonal love, meaning that you love everyone because you are a shared being with everyone. But again, that understanding is not just going to drop out of the sky. That understanding has to be found. You can experience, you cannot find love. You are love. You have to be loved in order to love someone in return. You don't have to look for nothing outside of you because everything is inside of you. You are no thing, but you are not nothing. You are nothing, but you are something. You are not nothing, but you are also everything. Again, I will also make a video again about this who am I in a greater details. But I think, like I said again, we look at love from an impersonal perspective, and we also look at love from a personal perspective, impersonal and personal, dualistic, non-dualistic. And when we look at love from an impersonal perspective, we see that there is no separation from self, and that is the only way that we can find true happiness. And if we continue to look elsewhere and we continue to look outside of the self, we will always be disappointed. We will also always feel some type of separation from the other.
Oh.